So all of these crazy weather phenomena that's going on right now all over the world are really causing some people to panic and become preppers and kind of live in a state of fear. And then there's the conspiracy side of things. Like, is this like the government doing it? Is it HAARP? Is it directed energy weapons? And then other people are wondering, is this all just natural? It's part of a cycle. So today we are going to explore all of these lenses into the droughts, the wildfires, the flooding, the tsunamis, the earthquakes, all of the things, okay? Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Tara, and on this channel, we explore all of the weird things happening in the world. We ask all of the questions, we go down the rabbit holes, we dive deeper, and I really like to put a spiritual spin perspective on the things that are going on, but of course, bringing in science to keep things grounded and just kind of connecting the dots in a very logical but also spiritual way. So if that sounds like your kind of vibe, make sure you subscribe, like the video, do all the things so we can stay connected. And if there's a subject you want me to talk about, make sure you leave a comment down below. I do read the comments and I would love to hear from you. I really just want to build a community of people who are interested in these sorts of things and get excited about asking all the questions and going down the rabbit holes and all of that. Okay, so today we're going to look at these weather phenomena that are happening across the world from a science perspective. We're also going to look at it from like how humans are causing some of the things, maybe, right? So we're gonna ask the questions and figure it out together. And then the last one is through the spiritual lens, right? Like, so what could be the spiritual cause or goal of these changes that are going on? Okay, so let's dig in. So, of course, we're being given an official narrative of what's going on, right? So, that would be El Nino. Now, if you're not familiar with what El Nino is, it's part of a cycle that's totally natural. It's El Nino, El Nina, and then a period of rest in between. So we're going to look back on the three most recent El Nino cycles and kind of look at what was experienced, how it affected people, and also ask some questions about some human interaction, right? Maybe it was HARP, maybe it's directed energy weapons. So you make up your own mind, do your own research, but I'm going to share with you what I have found in my research. So going back as far as the 1997 to 1998 season of El Nino, there was a lot going on there. It's actually referred to as the big one, if that gives you any indication. So what happens during that season? Peru and Ecuador actually had extreme rainfall, flooding, and mudslides. California had an extremely wet winter. The southern US had increased rainfall. Indonesia actually had severe drought and catastrophic fires. Northern Australia actually had drier conditions than usual. The Amazon had below normal rainfall. Mexico had a severe drought. Central America and the Caribbean area had a below normal rainfall. And Eastern Africa had exceptional rainfall and flooding. So, as you can see, basically part of the planet was burning and the other part was flooding. And that's really what we're seeing again now. But let's look again at the 2015 to 2016 El Nino season. This was another of the strongest on record. NOAA actually described 2015 as the year in which several seemingly unrelated global climate disasters were connected to El Nino, including a severe drought in Ethiopia. Puerto Rico had water shortages. There was really unusual hurricane activity in the Central Pacific area. There were also extreme global temperatures and major changes in rainfall across the board. Now, the 2023 to 2024 season of El Nino also saw some pretty similar events happening. We saw global record temperatures, extreme heat, drought, and wildfires. There was flooding and landslides and tropical cyclones, marine heat waves, and agricultural disruption. So, as of August 16th, 2026, the day I'm filming this, these are the things that have happened so far. On August 10th, there was a 7.4 earthquake in Western Colombia. And on August 15th, there was a 7.7 earthquake in eastern Indonesia. Both of these do not seem to be related to El Nino because, as I mentioned, El Nino is related to water related things. So, either like floodings or droughts, right? Lack of water. That's not necessarily the case with earthquakes. Earthquakes are not related to El Nino. On August 14th, there were floods and mudslides in Zhejiang, China. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. In July, China also had typhoon and flood disasters that left about 318 people either unalived or missing. Over the summer, there were wildfires across Central and Southern Europe. And of course, all the wildfires that we've seen across the US and Canada. And what I thought was interesting was this final data point about Indiana. So in August 2026, Indiana experienced extreme flooding and horrible storms. And it actually has been found that it's not related to El Nino. So what's up with that? So let's talk a second about HAARP. HAARP is a governmental agency that shoots radio waves into the ionosphere. Now, some people have linked this to like weather manipulation or control, and some have even said that this may be the cause of some of these kind of outlying natural disasters. But what I've actually found in my research is that that's actually not the case. So, what I'm seeing is that while they do send the radio waves to the ionosphere for science, it actually doesn't have an impact on the weather. In fact, HAARP's own technical explanation says that its radio waves are not absorbed by the troposphere or stratosphere, which are the atmospheric layers where ordinary weather occurs. Another thing that I was kind of curious about was, do directed energy weapons have anything to do with the weather events that we're seeing, or the earthquakes that seem to be like happening back to back to back? So for those of you who think that directed energy weapons are still like conspiracy theory, they're actually not. They are a confirmed military technology that is in use, and that's a whole other rabbit hole on the things that they've used it for. I won't get into it now. But in regard to it being used to manipulate weather or cause earthquakes or anything like that, I actually haven't found any credible connection there. The Government Accountability Office actually notes that the atmospheric conditions, such as fog and storms, can actually reduce the effectiveness of some of the directed energy weapons. So, if there's storms happening, it's likely not caused by directed energy weapons. And in fact, directed energy weapons may not be as effective during those climate conditions. Another question I had regarding all of these changes was, is there a link between the government wanting to build smart cities and the intentional destruction of some of these places like in Colombia? I definitely see a lot of dots starting to connect around that theory, but I wouldn't place all of my eggs in that basket quite yet. There's still a lot more I'd like to kind of dive into and uncover before saying like, yes, this is their plan. But I think I've seen enough for me personally to not completely rule it out, right? So if you look back over history, governments, not just in the US, governments across the world have caused situations so that the land was somehow available or not usable anymore for residential or retail or whatever. So they come in and they snatch it up for nearly nothing, sometimes actually nothing. and then they kind of rebuild what they want to on that. This has been done so many times across history, so I wouldn't rule it out quite yet. But at the same time, it's still a question mark for me. And as with everything in this video, I forgot to do the disclaimer. Take it or leave it for educational, entertainment purposes only. Um, Nothing I say is actually true. I'm just a talking head on the internet. Okay? Okay. So the next lens is, how are humans actually affecting the earth? Can we affect the earth? And to dive a little bit deeper into that, I do want us to look at how human caused earthquakes, for example, have happened, and what does the severity of that look like? So things like fracking, right? Wastewater injection, mining, building reservoirs and dams, all of those things can affect the pressure that's built up and can cause earthquakes. But is it enough to cause these 7 point whatever earthquakes that we're seeing? No, actually. But I do also want to explore, what are we doing to the earth that is more than just focused on earthquakes, right? Because there's so many other things that we're doing that are having consequences. So the question then becomes, how is the earth responding to us? Humans are putting so much pressure on the earth, but I think it's important to remember that earth is a system. It's a whole complete system, kind of like we have a whole complete body, right? How we treat one part actually does affect all of the parts. And I think that it's a mistake to think of earth as separate from us. We're not living on earth, we're living within an interconnected system. So even how we treat ourselves affects how the planet treats us, and how, yeah, you know what I mean, right? So then that leads me to my next point, is, what if earth isn't just a planet? So from a spiritual perspective, earth, or Mother Gaia, is a living conscious being, and she so lovingly supports us and gives us everything that we need to live here and thrive. But then humans come in and hoard resources and exploit the land and pollute and do all of the things. So if earth is alive, could what we're experiencing be perceived as a sort of rebalancing? Some spiritual traditions interpret earth changes as Gaia restoring balance. We don't have scientific evidence that this is literally what's happening, but the idea raises such a fascinating question. And so that makes me wonder, like, is Earth going through her own 3D to 5D ascension? And if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, really 3D is more like fear, separation, control, power, scarcity, ego, materialism, all of those things, right? But 5D is things like unity, compassion, intuition, love, cooperation, and conscious connection. So, what if the shift we're experiencing isn't necessarily something happening to Earth, but something happening within humanity? So, we're like evolving together, or because humans are evolving, Gaia is now starting to evolve herself. And I think during the 2020, thing that happened in 2020, that really woke up a lot of people, and the consciousness of humanity, the collective, has really, like, I don't want to say exploded, but like blossomed. And the vibration because of that has just expanded. And of course, as I mentioned before, since we're connected with Gaia, there's definitely going to be like a symbiotic relationship there. So what we're experiencing affects her, and what she's experiencing affects us. So going back to earthquakes, I really like to kind of think of that as a metaphor, right? So what does an earthquake do? It shakes the foundation of everything, right? So that what wasn't strong enough falls. And I think that that is a beautiful metaphor for what's happening right now, both on a macro level and on a micro level, right? So we're being challenged to look at what's not a strong foundation within us, what's not working, what's not serving us anymore, to release it so that we can rebuild something that's more aligned, something that's more rooted in truth. And I mean, wow, how powerful is that? I just got goosebumps. And I think that that can be applied also to like the government in the US, for example. I'll let me know if you want me to make a whole nother video about it. I was planning on it, but let me know so I can put it at the top of the list. But generally speaking, I think that what's happening with the government right now is a sort of earthquake. It's being shaken so that what isn't aligned with the 5D vibration, with where we are as a collective, it's going to fall. And then we have the beautiful opportunity to rebuild on a stronger foundation that's more aligned and based on what's important to us. So even though things feel so shaky and scary right now, it's part of the process. And so I think that that gives me hope, and I hope that it gives you hope too, that what we're experiencing right now is not forever. It's part of the process. It's part of the cycle. Um, in in Hinduism, Kali is the goddess of destruction and rebirth, and I think that's more than obvious what's going on here. So if you're feeling scared, if you're feeling overwhelmed and really unsure about the future, first of all, you're not alone. But second, it's okay because it's not forever and it's just like a growing pain. So I think we'll look back on this point in history as such an important pivotal moment, and how we realize all the things that were broken needed to fall away to make room for much more sustainable and empowering practices and systems and buildings and communities, right? So let me know what you think though. Do you see it that way? Do you see it another way? I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you liked this video, make sure you like the video, right? And subscribe, because if you don't subscribe, you may never see any of my content again. This algorithm is wild, to say the least. So if you are curious about future videos about the government, about all kinds of strangeness, we'll get into UFOs, disclosure, we'll get into geopolitics, we'll get into conscious parenting, AI data centers, the financial system, all the things, right? So if you don't want to miss that, make sure you subscribe. And this is such a big, beautiful world. And even though there's so many changes happening right now, I'm still excited about seeing the world. I think it's absolutely fascinating and important to get to know other cultures around the world, to understand what's important to them, why it's important, to honor their history and traditions, and make sure that we are preserving everything that can be preserved for future generations. Just getting out there and seeing the world and becoming a global citizen will give us so much more perspective on things and can help connect dots too. So if you are a dot connector like me, let me know where you would want to visit before it's too late, before some natural disaster levels the city or destroys the relics. Yeah, I've already been to Egypt. The pyramids are amazing. It's such a beautifully spiritual place. It really was like a once in a lifetime opportunity for me to visit there. But where do you want to visit? I think on my list would be like Peru. There's so much happening in Peru. Mount Shasta and Sedona in the US are probably two of my um, top of the bucket list locations. But yeah, let me know where you would like to visit. Maybe we can make it happen together. Who knows? Who knows? So, my final thoughts for this video: maybe the earth isn't breaking down. Maybe we're being called to rebuild. And maybe the question isn't whether we're witnessing something ending, but whether we're going to be part of rebuilding something brand new. So let me know in the comments, what do you think is happening? Are you excited about all of the changes? Are you scared? Like, where are you in the process? And please know that there's no right or wrong answer.